Not in one, but in several left-wing and far-left demonstrations in Spain, it has been seen that this flag, red, yellow, and purple, is raised. In case you don't know what it means, it represents the Second Spanish Republic, a period in the country's history, from 1931 to 1939, in which, as its name indicates, the monarchy was abolished in favor of a unitary semi-presidential republic. Are you interested in learning about its history and why there are people who still raise its flag? Alright, then stay until the end of the video. As always, let's go back to the background, more specifically to the end of the 19th century. As you may know, 1898 was a dark year in Spanish history, in which, after the defeat in the Spanish-American War, Spain loses Cuba, Puerto Rico, and the Philippines, which is associated with the end of the Spanish Empire. The then reign of Alfonso XIII was going through a period of crisis, social discontent, and constant internal instability. Since 1923, the so-called dictatorship of Primo de Rivera had been established, an authoritarian political regime which is sometimes associated with fascism. On the contrary, and like the rest of Europe, ideas from the other ideological extreme, socialism, also begin to spread, which begins to polarize Spanish society. This is followed by the so-called soft dictatorship of Damaso Berenguer. Thus, in April, 1931 municipal elections were held that gave victory to the Republican and Socialist parties in the main cities. King Alfonso XIII then chooses to abdicate and go into exile, resulting in a provisional government led by Niceto Alcalá Zamora, who calls for constituent assembly elections. This proclaims the Second Spanish Republic, with Alcalá Zamora as President of the Republic and Manuel Azaña as Prime Minister. Thus begins the reformist biennium, which, as its name suggests, were 2 years in which Azaña's government undertook a series of reforms that they considered in favor of a more democratic and egalitarian country. In the religious sphere, the power and influence of the Catholic Church was limited, thus declaring the secular state. Religious orders are dissolved, their assets are confiscated, and the clergy are imposed with the payment of taxes. There was also an agrarian reform in which the expropriation of properties from large landowners was undertaken to distribute the land among the peasants who lacked them. In education, free and secular public education was expanded, and access for women was promoted. Likewise, the Catalan and Basque languages were co-officialized, and the Statute of Autonomy was granted to Catalonia, and later to the Basque country, recognizing their own languages, cultures, and institutions. Finally, with the labor reform, the working conditions of the workers were improved, and the right to strike was recognized. A minimum wage law and an 8-hour workday were sanctioned. As you can imagine, these reforms provoked opposition and rejection from the most conservative sectors of Spanish society: the church, the landowners, the military, and of course the fascists. Thus, the Spanish Confederation of Autonomous Rights, OCIDA, was formed, led by José María Gil Robles, who defended traditional and Catholic values. Apparently, the right did a good campaign to highlight this, because in the general elections of 1933, the CILC takes the largest number of seats in parliament. Thus begins the conservative biennium, in which the radical Republican Party of Alejandro Lerroux governed, which had the support of the CILC. Thus begins a policy of rectification of the reforms of the previous biennium. This logically caused the discontent and mobilization of the left, which materializes in the October Revolution of 1934, mainly in Catalonia, where the well-known President Luis Companys unsuccessfully proclaims the independent Catalan state. In Asturias, a rebellion also arises that was suppressed by the army of the well-known General Francisco Franco. In these confrontations, between 1,500 and 2,000 people were killed, as well as the detention of at least 15,000, which aggravated the polarization and violence between the left and the right. This could also have influenced the results of the 1936 elections, which gave victory to the Popular Front. a Spanish coalition formed by the main left-wing and far-left parties. It is here when Manuel Azaña replaces Alcalá Zamora as president of the Republic and resumes the reforms of the First Good. The right, for its part, accused him of electoral fraud. This logically did nothing but re-propagate the political polarization and violence and confrontations between supporters and detractors of the government multiplied. This led to an attempted coup in 1936 by a part of the army supported by the Silk, the monarchists, and the Church, which intended to end the Republic and establish a military dictatorship. This had a partial failure in which the rebels were able to take certain parts of Spain, while other territories remained loyal to the Republic of Manuel Azaña. This is considered the beginning of the bloody Spanish Civil War, which was discussed in this video, and which was a fratricidal struggle between two irreconcilable sides. The nationalist or rebel side, led by Francisco Franco and supported by Nazi Germany and Fascist Italy, and the Republican side, led by Azaña and backed by the Soviet Union. Yes, a proxy war between fascism and communism. The clashes lasted for almost 3 years and had a very high human and material cost. Estimates indicate that 500,000 people lost their lives among fighters and civilians, in addition to thousands of exiles, political prisoners, and missing persons. The Civil War tipped in favor of the national or rebel side, while the Republican side became increasingly isolated as the support from the USSR was limited, and the Western powers decided not to intervene. On April 1, 1939 Franco's troops entered Madrid and defeated the last Republican stronghold. President Azaña had resigned from his post and went into exile in France. Francisco Franco, for his part, announces the end of the war and the dissolution of the Second Spanish Republic in favor of the start of the Franco dictatorship. An authoritarian period where national Catholicism, conservatism, and the defense of traditional values were exalted, which did not end until Franco's death in 1975. In conclusion, as you can see, the Second Spanish Republic was a period of intense political polarization of Spanish society that led to an era of fratricidal violence. Something that, truth be told, hasn't changed much in our days when we saw that the left made the Republican flag and the right the Spanish one. So it is of utmost importance that we review the mistakes of the past so as not to repeat them in the present. Did you know about the Second Spanish Republic? Don't forget to leave your comment and subscribe to the channel. Also, I leave in the description my social networks, and in case you want to see the new videos in pre-premiere and have a greater interaction with me, your donations on Patreon, unamanito.net, or channel members are welcome. See you next time.